The story focuses on the concept of crime prevention through environmental design, EPTED, which aims to craft the built environment in a way that promotes safer neighborhoods. This idea was born in the United States during the 1960s as a response to the perceived destruction of social frameworks necessary for enabling self-policing through urban renewal strategies. Its pioneers include architect Oscar Newman, who developed the idea of defensible space, and criminologist C. Ray Jeffrey, the one who himself introduced the term C.A. Jeffrey. Later, interest in environmental criminology triggered the in-depth study of topics such as natural surveillance, access control, and territoriality. Property maintenance was highlighted as a necessity to represent visible ownership and prevent criminal activities, drawing from the broken window principle. The appropriate design of the environment became recognized as an effective deterrent to crime through increasing the perceived likelihood of detection and apprehension. Furthermore, studies began investigating how the interior design of prisons could influence decisions to offend. These EPTED measures were found to notably reduce criminal activities. Recommendations extended to architects included tree and shrub planting, elimination of escape routes, proper use of lighting, and promoting pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Despite the potent initial concept by Jeffrey being undervalued, subsequent adoption and revision of Newman's defensible space approach, which incorporated additional environmental tactics, renewed interest in Jeffrey's work. A.C. Ray Jeffrey continued to propagate the interdisciplinary aspects of this approach until 1990, whereas his approach was more comprehensive than Newman's, which mostly focused on the built environment. Time Crow's model of EPTED, which developed from the Newman model, gained significant popularity. As it stands today, EPTED generally refers to the Newman-Crow model types and Jeffrey's overarching approach to crime prevention, encompassing biology and psychology. By 1997, a revised version of EPTED began to recognize the individuality of offenders, showing an alignment somewhat closer to Jeffrey's originally broader concept. As late as 2012, studies were being done on offending in prisons, revealing how design faults enable continued offending. In her groundbreaking book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, 1961, Jane Jacobs contends that urban diversity and energy are being dismantled by contemporary urban redevelopment policies. She defies the predominant paradigms of city planning, critiquing notions such as the isolation of neighborhoods, the safety of deserted streets, and the advancement of cars over pedestrians. Despite not bearing any formal qualifications in city planning, Jacobs had been an editor for the Architectural Forum magazine, 1952-1964, and developed ideas that gave birth to a novel perspective on urban development. Jacobs argued that contemporary city design and construction prevented the public from establishing the social systems required for successful self-policing. She identified modern city design techniques as harmful, invalidating conventional crime control methods such as constant resident vigilance and ubiquitous street use. In her view, the absence of this natural guardianship in urban spaces fostered crime. She formulated the theory that crime thrives in communities disconnected from their neighbors. Her book discusses the three essential elements for keeping city streets safe: well-defined public and private spaces, diverse usage, and frequent pedestrian activity. A scholar named Shlomo Angel, who was among the first to pioneer EPTED and studied under acclaimed planner Christopher Alexander, reinforced Jacobs' ideas in his PhD thesis, Discouraging Crime Through City Planning, 1968. Angel articulated how the physical environment can influence crime occurrence through territory demarcation, accessibility manipulation, and citizen surveillance facilitation. Angel further stated that crime was inversely proportional to street activity level. He found commercial areas were particularly prone to criminal activities due to their sporadic activity, which provides an opportune environment for street crime. Angel formalized and propagated EPTED concepts in 1970 with the support of the United States Department of Justice. The term crime prevention through environmental design, or EPTED, was first introduced by C. Ray Jeffrey, a criminologist from Florida State University. The term became more widely acknowledged following the publication of his similarly titled book in 1971. In his largely unsung 1971 work, Jeffrey proposed a pioneering crime prevention theory, defining four key factors including the opportunity for a crime to occur, the criminal motivation, the risk to the perpetrator, and the offender's history. These elements, except the criminal's past, are within the potential victim's control despite its significance. Jeffrey's theoretical findings were mostly disregarded in the 1970s. He claimed that during a period when pragmatic, clear-cut solutions were in demand, his comprehensive theory and broad range of proposed prevention functions didn't resonate. Simultaneously, Newman and Rand's definitive empirical study asserted the connection between crime and environment, with a particular focus on architectural design, an element absent in Jeffrey's theory. Newman's groundbreaking book, Defensible Space: Crime Prevention Through Urban Design, 1972, enlightened the field with its thorough discussion about crime in relation to housing architecture. Based on New York City crime data analysis, the book radically reshaped the environmental design and crime prevention landscape, leveraging extensive federal funding for further study and extensive federal funding for further study. Implementation. Newman's defensible space theory involves two key components. Firstly, it necessitates constant visibility for all, enhancing safety due to potential criminals being easily spotted, identified, and apprehended. Secondly, it necessitates a willingness to either interrupt or report any observed crime. Enhanced security encourages a sense of ownership among residents, fostering social interaction and intervention in the event of a crime. This approach is pivotal to most modern environmental design concepts aimed at crime prevention. In 1977, Jeffrey refined his original theoretical model of crime prevention by creating a more intricate behavioral model. This model caters to variable physical environments, the individual behavior of criminals and public members, and their reciprocal influence. Jeffrey's evolved model projected the outcomes of altering both the external and internal environment of offenders. However, by the 1980s, it was clear that Newman's defensible space theory had its limitations. While successful in residential settings promoting social interaction, it fell short in commercial and institutional contexts. As a result, Newman and others started to bolster the defensible space theory with more crime prevention tools, while discarding less efficient aspects. Their work during the 1980s significantly advanced the theory of crime prevention through environmental design. In 1981, Patricia and Paul Branningham, Canadian academicians, introduced environmental criminology. They emphasized four essential elements for a crime to occur: a law, an offender, a target, and a place, with the latter being the focus of their study. British criminologists Patricia Mayhew and Ronald V. Clark later introduced another concept: situational crime prevention, concentrating on minimizing criminal opportunities by enhancing the environment's design and management. C. Ray Jeffrey, another pivotal figure, contributed significantly to crime prevention through environmental design. P. Jeffrey postulated that the environment influences behavior only through intermediary of the brain. Hence, crime prevention models must consider both the cognitive process and the physical environment. His approach took insights from modern brain sciences, underscoring the necessity of considering internal processes alongside external environmental factors in crime prevention. Criminologist Tim Crow in 1991 solidified the foundation for CAPDID, enhancing its implementation throughout the 90s. The USUF, government's largest technical assistance and training program on CEPTID, was conducted from 1994 to 2002 by the Sparta Consulting Corporation, under the leadership of Severin Sorensen. The program, funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, involved the development of a new CEPT curriculum based on situational crime prevention. In 1996, Oscar Newman updated his work on CEPTID and advocated for defensible space. Meanwhile, Greg Seville and Gary Cleveland in 1997 reminded practitioners of the social and psychological aspects integral to the origins of CEPTID. Despite these efforts, by 2004, the physical environment remained the dominant focus in CEPTID practices, with the internal environment of the offender, as proposed by Jeffrey, often overlooked. However, some scholars continue to advocate for the expansion of CEPTID to include social psychology under the concept of second-generation CEPTID. Techniques from crime prevention through environmental design, EPDID, are increasingly merging with design technologies to enhance their effectiveness. For example, the resilience of proposed building models developed in building information modeling can be assessed against different forms of crime through video game engines. The primary focus of CEPTID strategies is to influence the decisions made by potential offenders before they commit their crimes. Studies into criminal behavior have shown that the likelihood of getting caught is a much bigger deterrent for potential offenders than the potential reward or ease of entry. The primary technique for reducing criminal activities is to increase the perceived risk of detection and capture. This method connects with the implementation of defensible space guidelines commonly used in the 1970s. The general belief is that appropriate design and effective use of a built environment can not only reduce crime, but also curb the fear of crime and enhance the quality of life, therefore. Peptid strategies aim to manipulate the built environment to discourage potential criminals. The 6 crucial tactics, according to Moffat, include territoriality, surveillance, access control, image maintenance, activity support, and target hardening. Natural surveillance and access control limit crime opportunities, while reinforcing territoriality encourages social control. Image maintenance and activity support reassure the community and empower citizens to prevent crime. Target hardening, the final tactic, merges all these techniques together to deter crime. Natural surveillance improves visibility of potential offenders, thus increasing perceived risk for potential criminals. This is achieved through the strategic placement of physical features, activities, and individuals in a manner that enhances visibility and fosters positive social interaction. Landscape designs should promote surveillance at potential entry points. Lighting design plays a crucial part, and poorly positioned lights that create blind spots should be avoided. All potential problem areas should be well lit, such as pathways, entrances, exits, parking lots, and various public amenities. Overly bright security lighting can create blinding glare and deep shadows, which can hinder potential observers. Lower intensity lighting may need more fixtures, but it reduces severe lighting disparities and enhances visibility. The design of a locale can greatly influence its safety by discouraging criminal activities and encouraging an environment of social interaction and control. Crime prevention can begin at the architectural level, where features like curved streets leading to multiple private entrances can make escape tricky for potential intruders. Security measures can be a blend of natural, mechanical, and organizational elements. These can range from installing surveillance measures like CCTV cameras, particularly in spots lacking visibility due to windows, to managing natural access points to separate public and private spaces distinctly. This can be achieved by strategically placing fences, lighting, landscape features, entrances, and exits. Other effective design components that control access include maze-like entrances in public restrooms that discourage isolation. Thorny, ground-level bushes beneath windows can deter intrusion, as can climbing plants along fences. It is important to avoid architectural features that allow access to roofs or the upper levels of a property. While fences are important, they should be designed to both control access and promote surveillance. Use medium-height, open-type fencing in the front yard and along the sides of the property. This allows neighbors to interact but discourages unnecessary intrusion. For backyards bordering public alleys, opt for a tall, closed fence rather than an obstructive wall to maintain some visibility. In addition to physical measures, psychological tactics can also empower natural access control. Encouraging a sense of ownership over a space can urge occupants to actively guard against trespassers. The layout and design features of a property, including buildings, signs, lights, pavement, and landscaping, can help define private, semi-public, and public spaces, thereby amplifying this feeling of ownership. Assigning specific spaces to designated users can further enhance this sense of territoriality. Maintaining your property and landscapes asserts an active presence, signaling that the space is monitored and cared for. The inclusion of features like trees, contrary to some traditional law enforcement views, can make outdoor spaces feel safer and more welcoming. Avoid fencing styles that seem unmonitored, like chain link fencing and razor wire tops. Finally, the strategic placement of amenities and the scheduling of activities in common areas can attract more people and create a perception of control, making the space more secure and less inviting to criminals. The previous discussion hinted at the importance of maintenance and active use in crime prevention through environmental design, PEPTID, which are typically viewed separately due to their non-physical nature. Maintenance demonstrates property ownership, while its lack can signify a rise in disorder and lowered control from the property's original users. The broken windows theory illustrates how essential property upkeep is in warding off crime. Advocates argue for zero tolerance towards property neglect. An unattended broken window can invite more vandalism, hence prompt reparations can prevent this. Graffiti as well falls under this category, with immediate coverage deterring vandals as their work gains no public view. Exuding a positive image fosters community respect and establishes owner pride. Complementing maintenance, activity support boosts the usage of a built environment for safe activities, thereby making criminal activities easier to detect. Regular surveillance by users without any criminal watch plan can also help. Use of signage indicating activities or caution can aid citizens to be more aware and discerning about their surroundings. They become more attuned to strangers or suspicious activities. The potency of CPD lies in community participation and collaboration with environmental designers, landowners, activists, and law enforcement. The collective involvement can make safety improvements in the locality more pronounced. U.S. studies have shown such joint captive efforts reduced robberies by 3084. Castile and Peak, ASA 2000. However, crime deterrence through environmental design might be a better term for SPEPTID, as it may not always prevent crimes, but merely dissuade them. The physical alterations in the surroundings can influence an offender's behavioral decisions, potentially leading them to abstain from criminal activities. On a concerning note, SPEPTID may stereotype local homeless populations, judging their potential criminal behavior based on their neglected personal appearance or presumed lack of responsibilities, largely grounded in stereotypes of homelessness.